Nobody's dead.
It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive.
brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better not.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello,
Your Uncle
and I
Christoph,
guess
right?
I'm still not working. Cool. There it is. My audio is working today. Welcome to Tangents.
Yes, the microphone is
worked. We were just discussing peeing in public.
Yes. And I am invisible.
You are invisible. Holy crap, look at that. I should probably fix that, shouldn't I?
Out of
Yeah, do you know
spite.
why? Because you weren't here last time.
Spite.
So I need to
Yep, that's still set to
yeah,
Robin,
I need to dump
right?
Robin. And sorry, Robin. And I need to replace you with Christoph. So let me do that.
But Robin, you are loved
Yes. Much love to Robin.
and appreciated.
Yeah. Where are you? That's weird. Oh, okay. So why aren't you broadcasting over? Christoph?
Spite.
Whoa. What the fuck?
Oh,
Well, now we
well,
can see
that's
you, kind
Sort of there.
Oh, nice.
Whoa. What the fuck is going on? Let me try it again.
Well, we've got the Matrix
right?
window. But I'm still not in there.
Now you are.
You're
Or so the Germans would have
Yes.
us believe.
There,
there
you
you
are.
are. Look at
So
you.
beautiful. Skypeception. It's truth. Thanks, you SynthLab. Anyway, welcome to Tangents, your bi-weekly show where we talk about peeing in public, unlike those other electronic music talk shows. We're not afraid to discuss those hard issues, like if you're in New York City, where do you pee? On Times Square? Or on the cop car? And that's what I call it.
Or in the M&M
Ooh.
store.
Like on the floor in the M&M store? Wow, that's cool. Anyway, welcome. I'm Andrew. I am one of the 4 of your mighty hosts here, and I'm in beautiful sunny Cleveland, Ohio. With me tonight are my co-hosts, returning from Thunderdome, Das Christoph. As you can see,
Greetings.
he's in a weird
Not
angle.
only have I
He's
been-
not at that weird semi-profile angle. We're looking right at him for once.
Yep.
Wow.
So I'm not home. So I'm still traveling back from California, and right now I'm in Buffalo, New
Beautiful,
York.
sunny Buffalo, New York.
You know, this is where snow
Yes,
comes
it
from.
is.
It's a fact.
I thought that was Quebec, but fair enough. It's all the same snow system.
You know.
so.
So welcome. Did you have a good time on your vacation?
I did, because after Wasteland Weekend, which is hot and sunny, which I do not appreciate, I went to San Francisco and went to the happiest place on earth, the Vintage Synthesizer Museum. And they have upped their
Oh, yeah.
game. They have new synths. All right, hands up, who here has played a CS80?
It wasn't working.
Nice.
Working. And I got to touch a Fairlight.
I did that too, and it wasn't working. That wasn't working either.
What?
So
Oh,
the
yeah.
Fairlight was not working, but I shot some video and I took lots of pictures, and I'm planning to share them all in the
That's
next.
awesome.
Tangents.
We look forward to having your trip
Oh,
report.
nice.
Yeah, so when I get home, I'll start cutting that together.
Sweet. That's awesome. Well,
All right, so if that SynthLab says the shop down the street has 2 CS80s. All right, do they have an Oberheim 4-voice, a Jupiter 8, a Jupiter 6, and a Mellotron?
this sounds like that one time when Justin and I went to Analog Haven, which is in like a library in a middle school in nowhere, Indiana. And they had
Okay.
all that stuff there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I also got to play with a Prophet 5, a Prophet T8. How about that, SynthLab?
Snap! Thank you
Oh
for
my God.
following the
I like
J
that map.
Blanco.
No, but that's great that the shop down the street has so many Synth Lab. I'm very jealous because I would go there all the time, and I wouldn't have
Right?
to pay, which you do have to pay to go to the Vintage Synth Museum, but you also get to make a recording of everything.
I would say, I hope
doing
you
there.
sample the shit out of that
So
place.
it's just the best. Yeah, they encourage it. They also had a real 909 set up and a Korg Monopoly. I could go on and on. They've basically everything. It's amazing.
Way to be a killjoy there, Synth-Lab. That's cool.
All right, Synthlab, where are you, and where is the shop? Because I have a car.
Next door to the Vintage Synth Museum.
Yeah, we're driving to
It's my
Synth-Lab's
vote.
house so we can go to the store. It's in New Jersey. It's right around the corner from you.
It's in New Jersey. Oh, I will go there. Will you please? All right, I'm going to type something in the chat. Please DM me the information about this shop because I want to go to it.
And that means
too. It's not that
Synth-Lab,
far
you
from
have
me
won
then.
a dream date with Das Christoph.
Yes. Yes, Christoph will eat all your food, and he will tell you stories and not ask you personal stories
It's
of your
true,
own.
because Das Christoph is socially awkward.
I don't know. I think
Let me
he's
talk
pretty
more about myself and ignore you.
You're pretty Socratic, man. Know thyself,
True.
dude. It's good
No
stuff.
one else will.
Yeah. So no dialogue, all monologue. Screw the dialogue.
Yeah, Synth-Lab does have an amazing studio as well. Hands down, really cool. So yeah, let me type in the shout out to Synth-Lab here. In the meantime, thank you, Robin, for co-hosting last week or 2 weeks ago. That was a lot of fun having her on, as always. Also with me, of course, is Jeff. Jeff, what's new in your world?
Hello. I am rotated 90 degrees. It feels weird. I was looking this way, and now I'm looking this way, and everything feels strange. I acquired stands. And have you ever had this experience where you measure a thing, and it says it's going to be yeah, it was centimeters. That's not a real measurement of things as far as I'm concerned, but it gave me a number in centimeters, and I marked it out, and I said, okay, that's the length of this stand and the height and the width. And then you actually get the thing into your space, and you're like, oh, that is bigger than the numbers said it would be. And that's what happened. And so I had to move everything.
Yay.
So that's it was great. So I rotated everything around, but I think overall it was a pretty good move. Feels better and bigger in here, and so I did that, and then I sorted out a mixer situation this week, which was kind of exciting because now I feel like that all works right.
Yay.
And then I hung things on the
I
walls.
see this.
So it was a big week. Things on
Things
walls.
on walls is great. And
Story of my life.
I'm so impressed that you prefer the Queen's royal measurements to the paltry base 10 shit that's out there.
It's nonsense.
The metric system isn't going to catch
It
on.
is.
It's a fed.
With their kilometres and their
Here's the
millimetres.
It's a bunch of nonsense in most cases, but I could probably live with the centimeters and the millimeters and things. But let me just go on record as saying Celsius is unacceptable.
Everything should be in Kelvin.
Fahrenheit is
Kelvin.
the right answer. Zero degrees is very cold. 100 degrees is that makes sense. 0 degrees in Celsius is a middling paltry temperature, and at 100 degrees you are on fire.
Or boiling.
So therefore Fahrenheit is obviously the right
I guess
answer.
so.
It's a human
I
centered
guess
number.
so. Also,
So the best thing about the metric system is that now I have to buy 2 sets of tools.
Yeah, that is cool. That is
that
nice.
is cool as hell. I mean, because you like tools, so.
And I could have been down to 1 set of tools, but Reagan said, nope, we're not going to the metric system. Everybody buys twice as much
Metric
stuff.
systems for points. That's capitalism there.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to report
it.
that, speaking of, Benjamin Netanyahu is on the chat. So,
Welcome,
Indeed.
Benjamin.
Thank you for joining
yes,
us.
shout out. to the bot called Benjamin Netanyahu. It's great. Why does my camera keep on dropping focus? I think it's because I'm not looking right at it all the time. Because the profile wants to drop focus. So I'll set this.
By the way, I love the bokeh on Jeff's camera tonight.
Oh,
good.
thank you. I do my best.
It looks good. I also like the fact that you actually looks like we're all almost like looking at the camera for once.
Cool part about rotating my whole world is that now there's space behind my
I
screen.
know, right?
And I can put a camera behind it.
I'm getting some real John Lydon vibes from you tonight, Christoph.
Is that including the Trump supporting or no?
Ew. No, it's
I-
got to be late 1980s
There we
PIL
go.
John Lydon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where,
Oh.
when he said, me and my fans both love the same person.
That sounds
Epic.
about right. Also joining me tonight is, of course, Justin, Mr. Mountain of Synth Wall himself, man of many talents, Devo wearing motherfucker, Justin. How are you? What's new?
I'm okay. I'm doing well. Not a ton of like music stuff going on. Haven't had to rearrange anything really. Not really working on any music. Mostly just trying to get the album cover sorted out, which is always an exercise and fun. But luckily, Jody was kind enough to lend her artistic talents and help me because that was a whole thing. Because I'd asked one other person to do it and they kind of ghosted me. And so
Shout out to the ghost
was like,
guy.
okay.
Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it.
But
Yeah.
Justin, you released an album in the last couple of weeks,
That's for the news
I did
section
just
later on.
Monday.
right? Yeah. Somebody's been driving and falling behind on things. I'm not going to name names. He may be at the Mohawk.
I don't know.
Persuasion.
There's no one at the Mohawk Persuasion tonight. All I see is just like some long-haired hippie. Yeah. Keep pushing.
I will say one thing. I had somebody successfully argue to me because I lived overseas as a kid for a part of my life, and I became very familiar and comfortable with the metric system. In fact, was sort of confuzzled by English/American settings measurements. And I always felt that metrics was superior. And then I had a person who was a woodworker explain to me why he thought the English system was better because it was more of a binary system, because you could do things in 2s and 3s that you couldn't do with like base 10. So
So he's
no.
bad at math. Got it.
Yeah, he's very well. Yeah, but to think about it, to get a third in metric is kind of a pita, you know. So I guess it's, I don't know. I guess there's a place for all things, but it definitely does not justify 2 sets of tools.
No,
man.
it does
No
not.
way.
And just ask NASA about how successful they were with changing the from the Queen's English to metric and back with that one Mars probe that smashed into Mars because they put the wrong version in there. Anyway,
Oops.
Yeah, that's the cover story. The real thing that happened is that we attacked
Yes.
Mars, and to show Mars who's
Yes.
boss,
we shot it. We shot a
Nice.
lifeless
Very
Hulk.
expensive probe because we don't do it
America.
half-assed.
Too much. Although, do you guys remember the Newton's Telecom Dictionary? So this was a thing that I used to use back in the day, like when I was an aspiring
Freak.
IT wizard. And it was basically just telecom and networking info. And there was the infamous KISS entry, or Keep It Simple Stupid, with the apocryphal tale of how the U.S. spent much money and tax dollars trying to build pens that would operate in zero gravity, and the cosmonauts were more than happy to use pencils.
You see, that's actually a fallacy. That was
I'm
an
sure
urban
it's
because what
wrong,
happens is,
but
here's the thing is that the pencil graphite is very static prone, which is bad in a pure oxygen
Very
environment.
flammable.
And the second thing is that the
Yep.
graphite is also powder, which gets into the oxygen system, which is also really bad to breathe.
So if it's
Of
true
course,
that
lead
Yes.
shavings.
if it's true that the Russians did that, they're just bad to the bone. They're
No,
just
they
hard asses. That's
actually
how
they
it
used
is.
grease pencils, and they hated it because the
Oh, okay.
grease pencils wouldn't stick very well on things and stuff like that, and it wasn't permanent. So then NASA didn't actually spend any money on making the pens. The Fisher Pen Company made it themselves.
Right.
So
So it's interesting that this was Paul Apocryphal, and I even began saying that I
Yes.
don't believe it, or that it was in
Yeah.
this dictionary. And I mean, it was just like a funny allegory.
You got
I
to ask
guess,
a pen nerd
yeah.
about these
It
things.
is. It's a great story.
I know.
It's quoted in The West Wing as well. But yeah, I mean, before the internet was really going, fact checking was
It's true,
hard.
and apparently it still
Yeah.
is.
Turns
Yeah.
out
Nothing's
it's
changed.
much easier.
I mean,
to
look
get
at-
disinformation now than ever before.
Look at the world.
Well done, Andrew. That was caustic and delicious.
So, what's going on in Andrew's world? I'm playing Synthfest this weekend. 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time at synthfest.online. It's the Golden Shrimp Guild's monthly weekend-long. Weekends now, I think, are starting on Thursdays, and they go all the way through Sunday, of electronic artists, and they just raid from one to the other, and it's going to be crazy, and the theme is movies, which is exciting. Thank you, SynthLab, for the Synthfest hype emojis. I wish I had those, but alas, I do not.
Nice.
Those are smashing. So I've got that going on. That'll be fun. I think that's pretty much the major stuff that I might start working on some other shit after Synthfest, but I'm not sure what yet. I don't know. Time will tell. I think I might be playing a show in the real world next month. Yes.
Wow.
We'll
Nice.
see. We'll see if it's nice. It is the real world that's out there, and the real world is fucking terrifying. I don't
Sure.
recommend it to anybody. So kind of a light news week this week in comparison to, I think, like last week's show or last time. I keep thinking we're weekly. Maybe we should go weekly. No, that's a joke. We shouldn't go weekly. I ain't got time.
If we cut down to an hour,
Yeah, right.
I'll do
If
it.
we cut down to 15
Well,
minutes.
So because I missed the show from 2 weeks ago, did you guys cover Cherry Audio's other recent news?
We did cover some of Cherry. Yeah,
Mercury?
we did cover Cherry Audio's Mercury.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we have to have Cherry Audio's news because we're the only reason why Cherry Audio stays in business.
Because they know they have to release every 2 weeks so that we can
Exactly.
talk.
Comically, they are doing a pretty damn good
They
job
really are.
of releasing about every 2 weeks for us.
And they're putting out good
Exactly.
stuff.
This is the 16th of our shows, and since we started, they've put out 16 new virtual instruments. I think someone's watching us. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu is actually one of the people from Cherry Audio, and they're spying on us.
It's actually been
It's actually
Netanyahu.
yeah, it's actually he's
And he works
a big
at- yeah.
Synth fan. Who'd have thunk? So yeah, not as much news this week, so we can yammer about this stuff for a while. I should finally say who's posting the news stories this week. All right, cool.
I'll do it.
I forgot to ask that before during our pre-roll. I'm a terrible host.
Yeah, I'll wait for you to mention the
Of
story before I
course.
post
Well,
it,
yeah.
though.
I wouldn't expect anything else.
So I post
Yeah,
the
that's
right
probably
one.
a good idea because I might jump out of order just for shits and giggles. Because that's the kind of guy. Yeah.
For spite.
'Cause I love to mess with you because you're so cute. Oh yeah, the other thing I'm doing the Synthfest this week without the deluge.
What?
Yeah. Yep, I am.
He said deluge, I have to
Yep.
drink.
Chug a lug, Donna. Oh, we're hitting the hard stuff, I see.
So why
I
no
am
deluge?
going to use the Squart Pyramid to do everything. And right after I'm done, I'm
Jeff
sending
sequencer.
it back to Squarp.
All right. Are you going to use some Euclidean sequencing?
Probably not. I'm still working on some ideas and stuff like that, but the XY pad on this thing is fucked. And the
that's a
XY
bummer.
pad is extremely handy on this thing because it's so MIDI assignable and stuff like that. But it'll literally just start moving shit on its own. And I noticed that as I was working on building sequences, when all of a sudden all the volume would cut out, and it was actually recording those the XY movement to 0 on the volume on everything. So and I'm not good enough at this thing to like figure out how to like go back and undo all that. So I just went in manually and did it. But I emailed them. They got back to me 2 hours later, and they're like, please send it to us. And I'm like, I have a gig this weekend. They're like, good luck on the gig. Here's how you disable it. Let us know when you're done. Send it back. You know, we'll send you the DHL information, and we'll pay for shipping and everything. So, like, shout out to Squarp.
Yeah, their service is
There's like
super
4
good.
dudes that work the whole place. So, you know, they're
Where are they
I think
from?
they're,
Andrew?
aren't they from France? Yeah.
France. Yeah. Their service is super good, and the pyramid is very cool. I love the Euclidean sequencing. The Euclidean sequencing, especially for stuff like hi-hats, if you use the sequencing, and then there's a couple of really cool effects in it that rely on randomization. For anybody who doesn't have one of these things, if you want to really humanize things like hi-hats, you can do it in an incredibly effective way with this thing. It just very, very rapidly, and basically it will sound, if you have either a sampler or a drum machine that handles choke groups well, between the two, machine handling the choke groups and then some randomization of velocity, randomization of nudging the note a little bit off the grid, and then I always also add in a third level of randomization that's a really extreme, very rare velocity dropout that makes it just mute the note. So it's like missing a note occasionally on cymbals and things like that. You can get to like fundamentally human sounding drums in just seconds with it. It's
awesome.
really cool.
That's awesome. I'm doing my usual thing though of using the built-in sequencer on the rhythm for my thing this weekend, so I'm probably not going to be doing much of the Euclidean stuff. It's mostly because it's just like I don't feel comfortable with the Euclidean yet. So, but I'm very comfortable with the Electron sequencers. So it's just like this thing is already pushing a lot of my. Why is it doing this kind of buttons? Why is it doing this kind of? Why doesn't it do it like this? Why doesn't it do it like that kind of buttons? So
Yeah.
I figured, I can get going, I can get comfortable with it, and then see how I go. But my goal is by the end of the year to be proficient with the pyramid and to be proficient with the what are you called? The MPC-1.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's the idea.
Another cool trick for Euclidean sequencing is bass lines. So if you just turn it on to Euclidean mode, you can play it like it's a really complex arpeggiator, which is pretty neat.
Yes, I did notice that. I'm still trying to figure out how to make it so it plays more than one note in that mode. Or does it?
Yep. It's not a thing that it does.
Didn't think so.
It's not a thing that it does. It's a monophonic thing.
Yeah, but it's like, but I mean, never mind. We'll figure that out later. We got plenty of time on that one. But yeah, it's fun. I like it a lot. It's not saying that anything bad about this thing. It's really cool. I do like the compactness of it. Because I'm a shit keyboard player, I don't mind the fact that it's, there's only 1 octave on the thing. I don't need to hook up anything to it because I pretty much only play like 1 note anyway. So yeah, I'm digging it so far. It's a lot of fun. Everyone should get one. So on our news stories tonight, first of all, our good friends over at Plogue have recreated the DX7 because we don't have enough of DX7s out there, virtual or otherwise.
Not yet.
Not yet. But this is the ChipSynth OPS7. Or is that? Yeah, OPS7. They're calling it the Bit Accurate Emulated Algorithm Sequencer. Synthesizer. Sorry. I got sequencers on my brain. So this thing is lovely. I like how they take things a little bit differently because it is Plogue. And that they do the graphic interface is actually really nice, which again, Plogue does that very well. Even though ChipSpeech is a little bit weird, I still kind of like that, how they do their user interfaces. But this is pretty sweet. Who wants to talk about this a bit more? Justin, you own this already, right?
Actually, I don't. I looked at it, but I haven't had a chance to pick it up yet. But I did listen to some of the demos, and there's been a number of these, and I can't remember what all the different ones are. There's some like shareware sort of ones that have floated around for years. and obviously the Arturia is doing it. But yeah, I think it sounds really, really good. And I think the problem with the Arturia one, in my opinion, was they didn't quite capture that sort of grit that you've got, because they were like 8-bit oscillators, I guess, digital, and they did have sort of a nice grunge to them. And you can get that, but the guys at Plug, or the folks at Plug, are just maniacally, tediously good at what they do. Like, if you read, like I use Chip Speech a lot in the and Alter Ego as well. And if you read what they've done in terms of reverse engineering codecs that were used at AT&T in like 1971 or something insane, you're like
Hemlow.
Yeah, they're
Which we
completely
talk
out
about
of
a
it.
lot.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. The UI looks really cool too, because that's the main problem. We've talked about this before with FM is, man, starting that UI, because the DX7 sucked. I don't care what anybody says.
It didn't have a UI.
Well, its interface certainly sucked.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You could like order some fries at Burger King on there. That's about all you can do. I don't know. It's like,
You don't need more than one slider,
Right?
yeah, I know.
because that would cost us a nickel.
But like the membrane panels that were so popular. The only synth that I would buy today that had a membrane panel would be a Moog Source. Although I would try to procure a substitute membrane panel ASAP, because the one I've got is probably going to deteriorate.
I have an Alpha Juno that has a membrane panel on it, and I just got a BCR 2000 plugged into it, and I just use that to control everything instead.
Smart.
Ask me how often I use the thing. I don't.
But yeah, these folks are cool. I reached out to them because the last couple Subsoma albums, the only two, used them so much. I wanted to let them know my appreciation to them and how much I like their product, and they did get back to me, and they were very cool. But yeah, I wish them well. I hope this works out for them.
It sounds super good. I like the UI. I didn't buy it, but I looked at it quite a bit. I listened to a lot of the stuff on it, or the demos that they put up, and I don't know. So much of what you hear, especially from the 80s, is, it's like so heavily processed, and there's so much of there's so much Eventide stuff on it, and so much other analog effect that's been placed on any of the sounds that I don't know. I don't have a DX7 to compare it to, and so it's really hard for me to say whether it sounds perfectly accurate, but it sounds like I think a DX7 sounds. And that's good enough for me. And the UI definitely is an improvement.
Yeah.
It's very clean.
Yeah, it's clean. It looks neat. It's inviting. And all that for $50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
I will
I
say
think-
that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Yamaha dropped the ball here. I think like on their Reface one, it was only like a 4-operator. You couldn't import any. It was stupid. Yeah.
No, they just didn't care. It was just Yamaha being Yamaha again. It's like, we don't need a user interface, and we don't need to give people what they really want and what we do really well. I mean, they're like the kings of FM. They were the first ones to bring it to a big market. And, so what Plug have done is, I don't know how this compares as an emulation, but this has a lot of the functions that many of the other FM synths that we talk about don't have. So the TX81Z, which is beloved, only had 4 oscillators, but it got around only having 4 oscillators by giving you additional waveforms. Because when you're programming a DX7, you usually use a couple pairs just to make kind of simple waveforms that you're then going to manipulate. So knowing that with the TX81Z, they could make it cheaper by, all right, we'll just give them a triangle, so they don't have to waste 2 operators making a triangle. And so they saved money, and then you got these sounds. And some of the sounds are weird sounds, like a single sideband sine wave, and then that goes dead, which is really useful for modulation. And the triangle, which is used in a lot of dubstep modulations. I know everybody doing dubstep is just using Serum, but the people that are making those wavetables are doing them with FM, and then selling these like short ranges of FM modulation that people are manipulating because they don't know how to do FM because it's so hard. So this gives you that functionality of the TX81Z, but with 6 oscillators, which is handy. So it's a little bit more like having an SY77, which is, Dwayne Cattell called the most perfect synth, or the most powerful synth that he had, at the time.
I think Addie Newton used one on digital soundtracks, which was their sort of instrumental album.
Yeah, probably. It's so the SY77 is considered to be one of the real powerhouses until just the most recent Yamaha FM synths that have 8 operators. But here, so you've got the 6, you've got the additional waveforms that you want, because you don't want to have just 4. And a lot of the DX7 emulations that they put out, like the little Korg FM that Jeff had, it's just sine waves. So that's good for the purists. But here, so you can be the purist or you don't have to be. And there's the function that Dext has where you can do a perfect sine wave, or you can do the 8-bit. And there's a YouTube channel by the best FM programmer, as far as I know, in the world, Power DX7. And he did back-to-back comparisons between his. Now he has a modded DX7, and he would compare it to all the emulations. It's like, all right, here's my patch on this, and then here's my patch on that, and see how it's not as good. And he took it against Dext. He took it with both modes. He took it against the Arturia. He took it against some others, and nothing really kind of held up to his DX7. So maybe this is the one that will, for the purist, for the person that really knows how to exploit the imperfections of the DX7. And that was one of the things that really surprised me, is that the DX7 II, which is higher resolution and you would think would be better, was much worse at making certain sounds, because that lack of resolution you would make a shimmer and really kind of fattened the sound up. When you made it more perfect, it got sharper, more FM-y, and it was less warm. So this guy, Power DX7, he made sounds that I would totally swear were analog sounds, and they're not. Like he did some Blade Runner stuff. I just couldn't believe it that he did it with a DX7. So, it's a testament that if you really know that synth, you can really make it sing and do tons of things. And so for me, my favorite FM synths to date is the FM8, because the interface is so easy and it has those additional waveforms. But the FM8 it's not an accurate emulation. A lot of DX7 patches, when you load it up to the DX7, do not come out accurately because of weirdness. I mean, in theory, FM should be very simple, but in practice, it's not. There's these subtle variations that change everything. So maybe now the Plogue can load DX7 Sysex and patches, so it might be the most accurate one. I can't say. I don't know. But it's exciting. It has a great interface. It has a lot of the power that a lot of other DX7 emulations don't have. So kudos to them, And if they want to send me one for free, but still, it's an exciting product. And if you're looking for an FM synth, this is definitely worth doing a demo of, because it might be the best one.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I don't know enough about that one, about the DX7 specifically, to judge very accurately about that. But boy, do I sure know a lot about the Super Nintendo Super Famicom synth engine and the some of the Mega Drive one that they have on there. And I'm super familiar with the way that those sound. And I don't think I could tell them apart, which gives me a huge amount of confidence for this one. Just how good those other two ones are, where I do have a huge amount of familiarity. Feels like there's something to it, because I mean, of course, the Super Nintendo one uses samples through this engine, and which I think is probably a really difficult. I mean, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know, but that seems like that would be a really difficult thing to emulate from a chip standpoint, recreating sort of the way that something handles samples and not just emulating the waveforms of something. But it's remarkably convincing.
That's exactly right. When you're trying to emulate a lot of like the chiptune stuff, a lot of it had to do with them hacking the circuits to make them pop when they're not supposed to pop, and doing memory tricks and just other 8-bit irregularities. And so if you don't put in those irregularities, it sounds better, but also not accurate, and then worse.
Right.
So that kind of stuff's really tricky to emulate, and there's, these chips aren't well documented anymore, so it's very hard to do. And they've done that. And as Justin was saying, these people are maniacal in their attention to detail. So this could very easily be the best one. Now, for just flexibility, the FM8, because of its interface, it's infinite algorithms, and it's going to be really easy to do a layout. But if you're looking to do this other stuff that's more like DX70 or SY77, this might be the way to go. I mean, but for SY77, the FM section, not the AWM section.
Nice. So yeah, $50 gets you the new ChipSynth OPS 7 from Plogue. Everyone should buy it. Everyone should be out there buying it right now, and then tell them that we sent you and that we love them, because we do.
Send us a copy, you know.
And seriously, if you don't own an FM synth, you really should, because it gives you a palette of sounds that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yep.
And it'll really make your stuff sound different. Like, I used to have a bunch of friends, they had a bunch of analog synths, and we all had our bands, and they could never figure out why we had sounds that they couldn't figure out. And it was because we had a keyboard that was a DX817 brother. And so it just has a weird character to it that you can't get with analog.
I think it is. I mean, it obviously it's a huge learning curve if you're trying to understand the mathematics behind it. However, if you ignore the mathematics and you just become comfortable with what interfaces there are, I guess I'm thinking the original. I had a gray matter DX7, so to me, like, I just was like stumbling into sounds. I mean, and there was something kind of delightful about that, because it was almost like hitting the random button, because I really didn't know what the heck I was doing. But then you learn after a while, you're like, hey, if I do this and this and use this algorithm, I can get a wicked bass sound. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I can approximate where I'm going with it. I think that's kind of delightful, you know? I mean, I think that's good to do.
Yeah,
obviously, there are
I've
people
found some great tutorials. I found some great tutorials that really demystified how to do FM. So one of them was just like the basic ratios and depths that you wanted to make a saw, a square, and then you drop the envelope to make it to a sine, which emulates the filter. And just finding those really opened it up and demystified it, because the problem with FM, unlike an analog synth, you just twist the knobs and you're just finding good sounds all over the place. Like I've mentioned, it's hard to make a bad sound with a Prophet 5 or a Jupiter 8, and that's kind of why they're so legendary. And with FM, only 1% of the sounds that you're going to make are going to be useful in a random setting. Almost everything is just brutal noise. You know, so it's like the pathways that you can explore in FM are very narrow compared to, like, you can go on, like with the Udo Super 6, in one of the product demos, he meant to do a 15-minute demo, and he played for 45 minutes because he just went on some path and lost himself, and then looked up, like, how long was I playing for? Was I 15? And everybody's like, you played for 45 minutes. And it didn't care. It was great. And FM, you're just not going to explore in the same way. It has to be more thought out. But, you know, there's nuances like it. But when you know what you're doing, it's a lot easier. But you do. So if you have a cheat sheet, it helps a lot. And now what you have, which you didn't have when you had your DX7, are great FM tutorial channels like the Mad FM channel. Because I wanted to learn from the Power DX7 channel, and he mostly shows off, but he doesn't really teach. Or when he does, it's like he gives you 15 minutes of information over a 3-hour video. So it's brutal to watch. Whereas the Mad FM channel just dials it in like 10, 15 minutes, and it's all useful. So, but yeah, FM's hard. So yeah, play with the presets, modify the presets, and there's a billion presets. But FM synthesis is also, the reason why I started learning FM was just because I wanted the challenge of it. You know, because it's really hard. And so that, yeah. So, but yeah, it gives you a palette. It cuts through in the way your other instruments won't. It'll stand out.
Definitely. So everyone should have an FM synth. Everyone should have maybe an analog synth. Everyone should have a wavetable synth. Yeah. Everyone should have a theremin. Everyone should have a sampler.
The sampler.
Everyone should have a. Did I cover all of them?
Oh, my
Oh.
camera seems to have died.
Look at you are
Look at
pretty
that.
colors right now.
He's
Look
been
at
attacked
that.
by a test stone.
Great.
You look great.
This is
probably
what
an
happens
improvement,
before
honestly.
Poltergeist starts.
I think it needs a battery. I'll be right back.
All right, so I just had
Yeah.
a dog appear on screen. Did our ratings go up?
Checking. Yep, still
has
have 7 bots.
7 bots.
Yep,
All right.
7 bots and
And
five
Art
and
like
5 humans.
NYC, who is great.
I like.
I like it too.
Jeff's new look, though.
I think
It's
it
good.
isn't it. I think he's doing a cover of the Pet Shop Boys introspective album. If
Yeah.
Nice. I feel very much
And
like
we do have our
yes,
VIPs.
thank you for making us
coming.
look like that we're popular. I
should-
just keep on putting everyone into VIP status that I know.
yeah, it kind of looks like something from Adventure Time. Like Jeff has become this
I know,
abstract
right?
colored creature. That's good.
Of course he has. Well, while he's doing
All
that,
right, well,
let's talk about
Let's
the
talk
next thing.
about the
and we
next
can, He
thing.
can be surprised when he comes back. This will be quick.
Oh, I'm
And that is that Ableton has released a beta of the 11.1 of Ableton Live that will support the Apple M1 chip. Well, Jeff's studio's back. Hey, Jeff's chair.
Jeff's chair is
Oh, there's
back.
Jeff. Yay.
Jeff is
Yeah.
Batteries.
batteries.
Yeah, I
okay, you
have
gotta
a
charge them.
dummy
Cool.
battery in mine that I just have that just passes power through a wall wart. You might want to look in again one of those. They're pretty handy.
Huh. I have mine connected to a wall wart and the battery, and it drains faster than the battery.
Yeah, because
will.
this doesn't have a battery in it. It's just like a fake battery that just allows somebody to plug it into the wall. Anyway, Ableton 11.1 now supports Apple Silicon M1 chips. I don't know if it does anything else. It comes with a number of workflow improvements and new devices. A new shifter that brings a new mode for monophonic pitch shifting in real time. Also has a delay and LFO, envelopes, and glide. And they even
Does it have mixer channels on
Probably
the
not.
linear view? Like somebody who shouldn't be in jail? It should be in jail for that behavior.
probably not, unless you buy the $12,000 version of it or something like that.
I contacted them about that years ago, and I was like, "Is there anything is there any? Am I missing something? Can I not? Is it really? Can I really not do this?" And their response was to buy a second monitor. Just like if you just had a second monitor, you'd have it. I'm like, no. I don't want to be able to see the mixer at the same time as I can see the linear view. I want it on the window of the linear view.
Yeah,
They just didn't buy a
it's
second
solution for
monitor.
everything. You just need to buy more stuff. It'll work fine
Yeah,
if you
it's
only own the
perfect.
right things. You know, you're holding the phone wrong.
Yes.
Hello, the pinball narcissist.
Oh, Ableton.
Yeah, so that's it. That's what Ableton's got going on. I'm not an Ableton user. I tried using it once and I couldn't stand it. I don't think any of us are Ableton users. We are the
Yeah.
So actually, I use Ableton 9 Studio, and then I didn't buy the 10 license, but I have Ableton 10 Lite on another computer, which is really limited. And I'm not upgrading to Ableton 11 because I find the whole thing annoying. But I will say I really like its duck compressor quite a bit. It's probably my favorite software compressor.
Yeah, I think Ableton has some things going for it for sure. I like it for some things. I really like the way that if you play live, like if you record a guitar loop into it as one of its clips or something, like an actual live instrument that you record into it, it does a very good job looping it for you. It does a better job of looping a region than any other system I've used on a computer does. So I'll give it props for that. That was one of the uses that I've had for it, and I've done it where I've used Ableton to record segments of things that I've then mixed and arranged in other DAWs. But it's very good at that, and I think it's not very exciting or anything, but it's Simpler and Sampler are both very, very usable too on it. But it is 97% irritating.
Every time I've played with Ableton
that's
Live,
my
I've just
problem,
gotten frustrated with it, and I think it's just because we're all old or something like that. Because I know that's popular with the kids, but
I'm only 29.
yeah,
And the kids are
generally
wrong, so I don't know.
Just like Christoph's, Pinball Narcissist wants to know if we do any Q&A, or is this a prepared discussion? We're prepared. We pull everything.
Well, a little column A, a little column B. We have a bunch of news stories that we're going to discuss.
Oh
but
yeah,
we'll respond
including
to any questions.
You know, which, if you ask which of us are the sexiest,
question.
we'll talk about that for a long time.
Well, actually, hold on. You answered the question by answering their question. Do you realize how meta that is?
Oh,
so
that's
deep.
true. Oh,
Like,
Information Tray says he's old and uses Ableton. That's true. You are old.
So yeah, I use Ableton sometimes. I mean, I find it incredibly frustrating, but it's of like the paid sequencers. It's the one that I've got access to. And you know, I know like a lot of, I thought I should learn it because a lot of other people, if I want to work with them, that's what they use. So, but I would like to just dump it and go back to Cakewalk, because I was originally a Cakewalk user, but Cakewalk's really not that pristine anymore.
Yeah.
But it is free.
Hands up, who misses Band in a Box?
I mean, honestly, so Cakewalk is actually Sonar, but I would love to
Like
go
just the
back to
MIDI
actual
sequencer?
Cakewalk, which I preferred the sequencer on quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Cakewalk 3 was my favorite interface.
Damn, there you go. Speaking of, I know that, yes, Pinball Narcissist, you're absolutely correct. Band in a Box is where you could type in the chords and it would kind of play them in time. Kind of. Play them. Yes.
High praise.
Good stuff. So, Jeff, you recently switched DAWs. How
I
are
did.
you?
Which is to say that I did start using one. I picked up Presonus. What's it? Presonus Studio One. I like it. It feels like a tape
That's what
recorder.
you want, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way. Like, I don't mean it like a junky, clunky tape recorder. Like, I don't do any sequencing in the thing. I don't use instruments in the computer. I want to record this stuff that I have and then mix it and turn it into a almost suitable sort of a song to share with people. And it does that. I thought it was really easy. It's I've used Logic for a really long time, and I would describe myself as very good in Logic. Not very good at making music, but using the software, and like very competent with it. And the transition was very easy. There's only a couple of things that I couldn't just intuit how to do.
Justin
It's
and
really
I made
nice.
the switch from Logic to Studio One, and similar kind of thing. I think we both kind of didn't have too many difficulties with it. And then any questions I had, I just pinged Rodney about, because he was like the dude for that kind of shit, which was handy. But yeah, I think it's a great piece of software. InfoTray says he'd consider switching probably to Bitwig if anything else had a deeply integrated controller like Live has with the Push. Push makes using Live like a lazy, half-assed DAWless setup. Well, there's that controller for FL Studio.
Yeah, I can't remember what that thing's called.
I don't know anybody that uses FL Studio.
Yeah.
It's because nobody
I
uses
know.
FL Studio.
Prometheus Burning was using.
Oh, okay. I
Fruity
used
Loops.
Fruity Loops when it first came out just to see what it did, and it was fun. I like the name, Fruity Loops. But they do make.
I considered switching to Fruity Loops because they were supposed to have a really good mobile integration,
No,
but it's not really.
no, it's not.
It's more like there's an app you can load in Fruity Loops that'll be compatible with your phone, but it's not all Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
And it's so
It's
kind of
it's the Akai
The
Pro
Akai
Fire
Pro
Controller.
Fire Controller. There we go. Which sounds like Fruity Loops or FL Studio. Sorry. Yeah, I think that like with Studio One, which I just want to keep on calling it Studio Line by L'Oreal. Yeah, especially with Jeff's hair.
Your
You
brain
got to
wasn't
do it more
programmed
like a
to
shampoo
use
commercial,
purple
Jeff. You got it now. We'll do it in slow motion. There it is. Studio Line from L'Oreal.
yeah.
Yes.
Both of you guys, you're naturals. You're like George Seinfeld discovering he was a hand model. You didn't realize.
Knew it. But the Presonus makes a lot of controllers. Oh, thanks, Architect. And so I have the Quantum, which is a great little keyboard controller. That's not really a keyboard controller because it's just kind of like it changes based upon what instrument you're using. So you can use it for like a drum sequencer. You can use it as a keyboard controller. You can just tell it to be like, you can just use it as a chromatic, non-chromatic keyboard. So you can just tell it, I want to play this, this notes in, whatever scale, that kind of thing. So it's a pretty easy to use, portable as fuck, really tiny little thing. It's a great little controller. And that's all I actually swapped out the big full size keyboard controller for that little thing instead. And then I also have a Faderport 16, which I absolutely love, mostly because I just like turning it on and watching the sliders move on their own like they're possessed by demons.
That never gets old, does it?
It really
never gets
doesn't.
old.
Like I'll flip it over because there's it has I think it's called Mardi Gras mode, and it's just like it just lights up and it moves them around and stuff like that. It's like a little party on my desk.
That's cool. I ordered one of those to go with my to go with my new Studio One license because since I was coming from the Tascam DP32 digital Porta Studio, which I really like a lot about the thing, and think they're great. One of the things I really like about them is the control that you have with the faders on it. So I tried using a mouse and keyboard for about 7 minutes, and I said, "Nope, that's unacceptable."
Yeah.
And so I had to order it immediately.
You can also use the Faderport with Logic and stuff as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so it actually has that built in. You can flip it pretty quickly. But yeah, it's a nice controller, or control surface, I should say. And then the Quantum Atom is what this thing is. I think it is, and that's a great little controller as well. So anyway, yeah. So good job, Ableton, getting their M1 support. Hopefully, we'll be seeing the next generation M1 processors in the new laptops, probably. Maybe by end of year. We'll find out. Pinball Narcissist asks, thoughts on the 1010 Music Black Box as a hardware sampler?
Jeff used to have one.
I did used to have one.
You
Doesn't
really
matter.
liked the interface for a while, but it's really limited for what it can do, right?
I don't know. I think it really depends on what you want to do with it. So there's things that I really like about the interface, and then there's things that I really don't like about the interface, I would say. So for my usage of it, I wanted it to be every drum machine ever. And I wanted it to be a way to trigger backing tracks for live play. For those two things, it's pretty good, but it has some real issues with a few parts of it. If you want to use the sequencer on it at all, it is, I thought, probably the worst sequencer I've ever gotten on an instrument. It's it relies on a grid that's so small that even using a stylus on it, you cannot enter information effectively. It does a pretty good job of doing stretching for chromatic sampling. I thought it did that pretty well, and you can do some interesting multi-sampling things on it. The biggest issue that I had with it really was that it's just when I had it, I don't know what they're on now. It was pretty flaky in terms of the firmware. It was not super robust. It wasn't very stable. I wound up switching over to the SP404SX, which I actually prefer vastly to the black box.
I have the Bitbox, which is the 1010's Eurorack sequencer.
Yeah.
And my biggest beef with that is very similar. Is that grid on that tiny screen is impossible.
Yeah,
really
it is literally
anything.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's in the touch screen thing on something that small. You do not have the granularity, even with the stylus, because the stylus are still like big fat thumb fingers anyway. You don't have that precision that I think is necessary to go in there and do really deep sequencing. At least from the Bitbox standpoint, I love the fact that it has like so many inputs and outputs to the rest of my modular. So I do use it as my primary sequencer, but I don't really do anything live sequencing with it. I'll pre-program all that and pre-game it because I'll fuck it up left and right and get frustrated. So I'll usually work on that for a week to get 4 tracks done. I know that Actitect, one of our moderators on here, Pinball Narcissist, uses one in his Dallas setup. And I think he likes it a lot, if I remember correctly. So we might want to reach out to him and ask him about that as well for his thoughts on the thing. I give him a microphone, but he doesn't talk to me like in the real world. He only talks to me on the internet.
Yeah, I think if you're happy with everything that you want it to do, then you're happy with it. It's kind of one of those situations. I didn't love that it used the 3.5 millimeter plugs for things. It had the black box. I don't know if this is true about the Bitbox, but it was hard to plug, like physically hard to plug in multiple things into it.
Well, the Bitbox is it's all Eurorack, so
So the black box, you have to be extremely careful about how which cables you purchase to connect to it, because it won't connect them. As for styluses, I actually had one of the ones that's got the hard point, not the rubber nub ones.
Okay.
And I guess whatever the capacitive system on the backing of the screen is actually less precise than the size of the grid for the sequencer. When I say it is literally not usable, it is actually hit and miss even with a precise stylus, because it seems like it wants you to be more precise than the technology will allow you to be. So I don't know. I had some issues with stability and file problems with it and things like that, which is kind of what put me off of it. The interface wasn't great, but I guess it was fine.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Information tray says he's got the blue box mixer, and all the screen hopping to do different tasks gets kind of old. He's thinking about getting a Launch Control XL to control it to work around that issue. Launch Control XL is a fine control surface. I use that with my Deluge, and I love it. Especially if I want to do any of those kind of like Roland drum machine kind of style things with like with the sliders and shit like that. And the cables are like that on the blue box as well. You have to get, because they only have those little tiny ones. You have to get the breakout cables, and you have to be a certain size, and blah 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 blah. Otherwise, you're going to be blocking other ones and stuff. So I think it's that trade off of ultra portability versus usability.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, for the price, I have one of the Isla 2400s on pre-order, and I've been really considering whether I should cancel the pre-order and get the MPC 1 instead. But I would say look at an MPC, look at the Isla 2400, and look at an SP 404. If you want some things that they're not, none of them are perfectly comparable at all. They're all like fairly different. Probably the most comparable to the black box is the SP. But if you want to sort of see what the options are, those are the ones that I would probably look at.
Yeah. Oh, there's always, my favorite sequencer, the Deluge.
The Deluge is awesome, and
I was waiting for the Deluge comment.
I don't enjoy using the sampler on the Deluge, though.
I'm fine with using sample playback. I've never actually used a sampler on there, and Pinball isn't planning on using the black box for the sequencer. Is mostly just looking at it for using it for chord samplers.
Yep.
So yeah, hope that answered the question. I'm sure we dove into it a lot. So there you go. That'll teach you to ask us questions. But yeah, God, I love our tangents. That's like I called it tangents for some reason. Our next bit of news: Arturia, in all their wonder, has released the Mini Fuse, which is a USB audio interface, actually a series of USB audio interfaces, I should say. And these are nice. They're pretty inexpensive, affordable. And audio interfaces are something newish that they've been diving into only for the past couple of years. So they released 3 of these bad boys. Or 2 of them now are in the few months, and then next year,
One
the big one
should be announced.
Yeah, the MF4. These are really nice little guys here. There's a Mini Fuse 1, which is just a 1 combo in and 2 out device. They're all USB-C. They're bus powered as well. The MF2 is a 2 in, 2 out, with the 48 volt Phantom power. It has MIDI on there as well, and is also bus powered for something that gives you a pretty good chunk of love there. And then the MF4 is a 2 combo mic instrument and 2 line TRS input, and then 2 output. And then that's also USB bus powered and everything along those lines as well. So these are nice. They start at $100 for the MF1, $150 for the MF2, and they've not announced the pricing for the MF4.
Yeah, wow, that's cheap as chips.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'd be really interested to find out what the 4 will go for.
I'm gonna guess $200.
Well,
And I'm going to guess 400.
All right.
The original Audio Fuse was around $599, $499, something like that.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
good. Okay.
All right, someone talk. This
I'll
is like
do
a
it.
college radio station. Come on, guys.
I'm gonna do it. I am gonna smash together 2 news items because also Universal Audio released some interfaces, and they are comically aligned with these Arturia ones in terms of the lineup. So this is one of the things that I noticed when I was looking through these show notes is it's not a perfect alignment, but it is very close. So Universal Audio, our friends who make a $1 billion 2 in, 2 out interface, have just introduced a $139 interface.
The Volt 1.
And
Christoph, you might as well put that story up there too. There you go. Thank you.
The Volt 1, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of funny that these both dropped at such close proximity to one another.
What an amazing coincidence.
I know, right?
Weird, isn't it? It's almost like that time that Korg came out and made an announcement, and then Uli was like, bang, and dropped the same announcement on top of them about the 20. But the 476. So to your question, Christoph, about or Andrew, your question and both of your estimates on the price of the 4 from Arturia, the 476 from Universal is pre-ordering for $369, and that's a 4 in 4 out. And that one comes with their built-in compressor, the 1176 UA compressor. So I don't know. We'll see. It is kind of funny though that they both are introing these lines that are super close to one another.
Yeah.
And
with the USB audio, with the Universal Audio, though, you're also getting DSP power.
Right.
Yep.
So it's very different, but I still think that both will come in. So if this one's coming in at 476 for the 4 in 4 out, I think the other one will still be in the 400 range, because just for me, anything with only 2 outputs is useless. Because I DJ, I always need 4 outputs.
Yeah.
And there's just there's so many affordable 2 outs, and then when you get the 4 outs that DJs need, it's always like it's not just double. It's usually triple to quadruple the cost of everything else.
Yeah. Interfaces get crazy. I wound up just getting a new interface recently to route everything through, and I wanted a 16 in, 16 out interface with 1/4 inch jacks. And it's not easy to find at all.
It really isn't, unless you're
So
like
I
a
got
quantum.
the ESI based on Rodney's recommendation.
That's 8 though. That's 8 analog outs.
Oh, all right.
So I wanted 16 TRS plugs in a row for input and 16 for output. And and that was tough to find. So it's definitely a challenge to find one that fits anything. That is, if it's like any sort of a non-standard thing. And you're right, the minute that you start to go above even the 2 out, you start to get into wacky levels of pricing.
Yeah, like I'm using that Persona 68C. That's what's running this show and all my live streams and stuff like that. That's a 4 in 4 out box that cost me about $500. And it's fucking great. This is my favorite interface because it's so transparent. It's just like I've never had to do anything with it that required anything that I had to do to get my Motus to get as low latency as possible. This thing is just great. Chef's kiss to Personas.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
So the ESI I have is 16 in, 8 out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the challenge, is that I wanted 8. I don't know. I wanted 16 out, because then I can round trip everything through the mixer and sum it in the mixer after I've recorded it as a multi-track.
Okay.
I want 48 inputs and 48 outputs. And I don't want to spend more than $100 for it.
That was where I was, and then I had to make compromises on both fronts.
I was looking at the Personas Quantum for a while for like getting as many inputs and outputs as I could possibly, shove into the thing.
Yep.
And they're not not as expensive as I was expecting them to be. But it's just like, I don't know. After a while, I've just got, just like, you know what? I'll just do what I'm doing now. I'm fine. I don't need to have everything plugged in at once. I have enough patch base. I'm good.
Well, with that one too, you start winding up into needing to buy into a bunch of DB25 cables.
Exactly.
Which is comically expensive if you are not buying the cheapest ones, and is then just expensive. But it's like an 8 plug TRS to DB25. Sometimes it's like $150.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, for a fucking cable that hides in the back of this thing, it doesn't even give me a hand job,
If you need 96 through on that, that's what, 12 of those guys. It's a $1,500 interface with $1,500 worth of cords
hang out
to
the back of
supplement
it. Motherfucker. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I remember when I was looking for an audio interface, I was looking at the Universal Audio because of the DSP power and their SSL plugins and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, this is the one I got. And I did the research, and I found when I found out the cost, the one I wanted, it cost an orphan.
Yeah, it literally says that.
$4,000.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. I wound up
It's
going
like,
with
nope,
that.
Never mind.
The Motu 16A, which is because I don't actually care at all what the latency is, because I'm not doing anything in the box and out of the box. It's like I'm just listening to it on the mixer and it's just recording.
Right.
So I don't care what the latency is. But it was one of the only ways that I could get to that level of in and out without having to go to DB25.
Okay. So were you gun shy about going with the Motu with your experience with their MIDI interfaces?
No, the MIDI interface seemed to be sort of like a weird experience. In case you're interested in having a Motu MIDI interface, make sure that you don't have the following 3 devices connected to it at the same time: a Squirt Pyramid, a Behringer DeepMind 12, and a Minilog XD. Because if you have the 3 of those devices connected to it at the same time, it will lose its mind.
Inception.
And I am not the only person who found that out. And
Which
nobody can figure
which
out.
MIDI interface was it?
It's the big one.
Oh, the 4 or the 8.8, the full size rack.
It's the biggest MIDI interface that they
Yeah, I
make.
had one of
don't
those, and
remember
it
what
just
it's
decided one day to die 2 days after the warranty expired.
called. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I
Um,
have like their little travel MIDI one that I've had for like 20 years, and the thing still works just fine.
Oh, that's funny. It's yeah. So no, I didn't have any concerns about it because of that. It was a weird experience, and it seems to be some sort of really weird anomalous thing that happens at the intersection of like 2 of those devices sending some sort of non-standard information over MIDI that when it collides inside the interface, it just breaks down.
Yeah, the MIDI Express 128.
That's the
That's
one.
the one
Yeah.
that I had that literally shut the bed like 2 days after the warranty.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no I didn't have that one. I had the MIDI Express XT 8x8.
Oh, super fancy.
Yeah, that's the one that I had.
Now I don't remember what the hell I have now. It's the IO MIDI 10 or something like that. I don't know. I'm trying to look at it, but I can't see it from here. But it's I've had that for about 6 years now, or 5 years, and it's mindless. I mean, it's just been fine, no problems at all.
Yeah, I have the
Yep,
Mio XL
Yeah,
eye connectivity.
Connectivity Mio 10, and it's great, fantastic.
Yep. I forget that it's there.
Yep.
It's totally adequate, and I have no
Just what
complaints.
MIDI interfaces should be. Seen and not heard, like children. Or Justin right now, apparently.
So information tray, when you say it only works when it's plugged into one specific USB port, is that a Mac
That
or
is
a
probably
PC?
his Mac, because he's a Mac user.
That's
but-
crazy.
Is it an Intel motherboard that has both USB 2 and USB 3 interfaces?
Probably USB 3 only, unless he's using his old laptop, then it's USB 2.
But not a mixture. Okay.
Sorry, I know his stuff.
All right.
It's my job to know all of Vic Studios' gear. I think it's because I swapped out his battery on that thing, so I know it pretty well. But yeah, the for whatever reason, the MIDI Express 128 was just fickle no matter what, and I would have a similar issue where I'd be plugging into my USB and it wouldn't work in one, but it would work in the other without any problems. And that was on an iMac, so it's like not even a laptop with like weird power issues or anything like that. It was just, I don't know, it was just kind of flaky.
Motu can be a little bit
Yeah.
flaky.
I like
but-
their audio interface is fine. Like I have 2 of them on the Mac, and I have a travel light, the original travel light that has a FireWire 400 port, and I got that going into luckily I have a hub that has a FireWire 800 input on the thing, and I have that going. Actually, I have that daisy chaining into the into my other Motu 828 that has a FireWire 800, and then going into that hub, and then going into Thunderbolt, and it's all working with low latency. I have
That's
no
incredible.
fucking idea how I did that, but hey, you know, clean living. That's how. Don't do drugs, kids. All right. So yeah, the Arturia Mini Fuse, as well as the Universal Audio interfaces, the Audio Volt, new contenders in the affordable market, which is quickly getting more and more crowded. Just the other week, we discussed the Scarlett releases as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is going to go into a full-out war of audio interfaces.
Yeah. Those Scarletts have been really popular with streamers, and I think that made other companies aware that there was a market
Especially
for this
because
item.
of the pandemic and everything,
Yep.
and how much people have been jumping into the streaming world. I guess I should also mention, unless you've been living under a rock like Christoph, Twitch did get hacked the other day, or they announced that they got hacked. So make sure you change your passwords.
And have two-factor authentication
and
enabled.
Make sure your 2FA is on, please. Yeah, I don't have a story for that one, but it happened. Trust me.
One last thing. If you use that email and password combination elsewhere, you've got to change it everywhere that you use that combination. Because hackers will put that in to a database where it'll just try that combination on hundreds of sites, and it'll report back which sites it opened up.
Yep.
And
Oh,
that's
stuff
That's why you
Perfect
need unique
time
passwords.
Yeah, credential
install
stuff.
Bitwarden and pay them the $10 a year for their premium support and have an absolutely awesome password manager that's open source and super useful.
On the password
Which one,
manager
Jeff?
I use is Jeff's former recommendation, KeyPass.
Yep. That would have until that was what I was using until Bitwarden became a thing.
And I use iCloud.
That's how your pictures got leaked in the fappening, isn't
Well,
it?
you know, actually, I leaked them. I needed the press. You know.
Yeah. I did
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
exact thing. I understand.
Yep.
Got to do what you got to do.
Pays the bills. So Full Bucket is the name of the company that we're going to discuss next, and they just released the FB7999, which is very easily to remember. And basically what this thing is it is a soft synth that emulates the DW8000 and the DW6000 from Korg back in the day. And it's free, as in beer. It
the right
is, in
price.
fact, if you want to, especially if you ever use a DW8000 or DW6000, free is about, to me, what they're worth, because I did not like the DW8000.
Well, the 8000 is what the mod wave's based on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. And, you know, my thoughts on that.
It's got a bunch of other stuff added on it, but I thought that it's kind of the spiritual successor to it. So if anybody is interested in, hey, do I like wavetable synthesis? Here's one that you can find for free 99 and
Yep.
find out if you do.
So I remember a bunch of those same bands I was talking about that where they didn't know how we got our FM sounds. They would mod synths, like they would mod the Poly 800, and they had modified a DW8000, and they really liked the saws that came out of the DW8000. So there's definitely people who love
yeah.
this synth. I never fell in love with it, but you know,
Yeah.
now you've got an
And it's
option.
free, so even if you don't like it, you didn't waste any money on the bloody thing.
You can play with it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. We live in the golden age of synthesis now. We have just a gazillion options for nothing. It's amazing. You know, you live in the future.
You didn't get the flying car, but you did get the dystopia, and you did get some free software.
Yep. You could have gotten the flying cars, but I mean, people would crash them into buildings, so they had to say
They
no.
have a tough time with
And-
Z.
And the stuff falling off of them. People litter so much. I'm very glad we
I
don't
know,
have
right?
flying cars.
Plus, people can barely understand how to
It'd be
turn left and
terrible.
right.
You'd-
I mean, imagine ascent and descent mixed into that.
You walking across the street to, I don't know, to go to the library or something, and some jackass would throw a half-empty Coke can out of the window of the flying car at 420 miles an hour and 100 feet up, and you would die. It would happen every day. Somebody would die from like a dropped Coke can out of a flying car. Terrible.
I mean, let's be honest. We can't trust people with the hotel remote. Let alone a flying car.
Christoph, you just spent a couple of the past
I
couple
know, I
nights
do-
in some hotel rooms. What were you doing with the remote?
The Travelodge trying to make the cable do anything besides say Comcast.
What, that's not enough for you?
I actually travel with a Fire Stick, and sometimes you can hook a Fire Stick up to a hotel TV, and that's a good way to get around it if their internet is working.
So you were in bumfuck Indiana.
Yeah.
Everything was
Yep.
closed.
With no cable, and the Fire Stick worked until the internet went out. I was just watching YouTube videos, and but you know what? I get to these hotels, so I
Yeah.
just go to bed. So I have to, because you have to check out at 11, which is dumb.
Especially when you don't
Yeah.
get up till 3.
Because the best time to travel is at night. So,
I don't know about that. Anyway. So yeah, this is like I said, this is the free version of the DW6000, DW8000. It's got everything you could possibly want from both of those, wavetable kind of sounding synthesizers. Free.
What's
Yeah,
with
the name is terrible.
the name?
FB7999. 7999.
It's
Yeah, I
like
know,
the
right?
IT crowd. 0118 999 881 999 1119 7253. Right? I mean, that's what I think of
Yeah,
when
right.
I'm in a panic, right? It just happens.
Yeah, so I don't know.
it may one of the strengths it may have. They mentioned that I haven't tried this, but it has SysEx data communication,
Right.
import and export. So if you had one of these synths and you don't have it anymore, and you definitely don't want to buy one because they're going to be so overpriced for what they could do, this would be a way where you could load up your patches and then not have to get your hand on one of these synths, so you could like recreate
Right.
some of your old songs. So that is actually
It is.
quite
That is a good
valuable.
thing.
And this is a way to do that.
Yeah, the DW8000, they're starting at like $600 on Reverb and going up from there.
Yeah,
No.
and it's not worth it.
It is
I remember that-
definitely not worth it.
Like the Poly 800
Yes.
is a terrible synth, and people would modify it, and so that you could do like filter sweeps with it. But still, it's not that great. It's kind of a toy synth, but it's okay. And then because people were modifying it and it was cheap, they started skyrocketing in price, and it's still terrible and totally not worth it. The Poly 800 is just a terrible synth. I mean, it's not as bad as my Novation X25, but it's
Yeah,
bad.
man, you got the worst of those of that whole group.
Yeah.
Get a K station.
Yeah, almost every Novation synth is good,
No.
but not the X25. It
Yeah,
has a
go get a
terrible
K station.
filter. And I got into an argument with somebody. It's like, oh, it's fine. And like, no, you just have terrible taste.
Yeah.
It's a terrible filter. Well, I mean, it
It's
can
sad
do
you can
sounds
feel that.
besides basses, but basses are the most important
Yeah.
sounds, and it can't do it. And if you think you can, then you have terrible taste.
You can't hear
Probably
anything.
sucks. And you're probably a bad person. And if your father's not really your father, you should go to 23andMe and find out.
Wow.
Oh no. So
Yeah.
Cherry Audio.
So Cherry Audio.
Has
has
done a
introduced a
good
new-
thing.
Our friends at Cherry Audio, knowing that our show is coming up, has put out the Space Echo VST. Look at them go.
That's what the world needed
You know
was
what?
another Space
We
Echo.
have
This
not
does
gotten
sound
enough Space Echoes out there. That's all I got to say. This is the Stardust 201
Well,
Space
you'll
Echo.
notice-
It looks just like the Space Echo. Does it sound just like the Space Echo? I don't fucking know.
I played
hold
with
on.
the Space Echo last week.
How did it
Nice.
sound?
So
Attached, it's
Yes.
nice sounding. So I there's a reason why
Mhm.
people want these things. But for me, I mean, I couldn't get rid of the feedback on it, so it just kind of I could always hear that it was on. So I only played with it a little bit because I really just wanted to get raw samples of the things that I was doing. But I did fatten sounds up nice. It's a nice echo. It definitely has
Oh, yeah.
a huge cult following. It's one of the most important echoes, obviously. So if you're looking for that sound, this is a way to get it. But people get really particular about their delays in a way that you wouldn't think. But for example, the Lexicon delays, people that have had them just love them and worship them, like the PCM 42. And that used to be a very expensive delay, and people get really into it in a way that you don't really think so. But when you hear a delay used well in a mix, like a good delay, you can hear the difference. Like the people that really know these things, the way that it filters out the progressive sweeps of it, it does make a huge difference. So if you're that kind of particular about your delays, and a lot of people aren't, but when you've gotten used to one, and a lot of people are used to that Space Echo sound, especially former studio engineers, then I can see why there's so many of these.
Yeah, it's very funny though. I have heard a bunch of Space Echoes, and I know several people who have one. Every Space Echo sounds different from every other Space Echo. I've never heard two of them that sound even approximately alike, which is very funny because I've had the same experience in listening to people who are going on about, does this new 808 clone sound like the old 808 clone? It's like, well, which blown out capacitor do you have in your old 808?
Yeah. Well, let's find that. Remember those two mini Moogs that sounded exactly the same? The two Prophet 5s that sounded exactly the same. So yeah.
It's kind of funny how people get so precious about trying to recreate the exact sound, and literally none of them sound alike. But the Space Echoes tend to sound like very different from one another, especially if people haven't, because it's using all that magnetic equipment in it. If you depending on how the magnetic equipment and the heads and all have been maintained or not, you get a lot of variance. But
it's $20.
But I
$20
thought this one sounded good.
Sounds good.
It's a great price.
It's our friends at Cherry.
Well, one thing to note was 2 weeks ago I commented on this. They built this thing into the Mercury 4.
Oh yeah.
So then I was like waiting for them to spin this off, and I didn't have to wait long. Because
they did it because they heard you say that.
The Arturia one is, maybe I just don't love the Space Echo. I thought I did because I love the stuff that like Future Sound of London and other IDM people have done really cool things with it. But every emulation, including I had one for my bass rig that was like one of the Roland Boss Roland, whatever, came out with a full size semi pedal emulation, and I just couldn't love it. I just couldn't. And so
I can relate completely. Just as I was saying, you get particular about your delays. I do like the sound of the Lexicon delays. The Space Echo doesn't do it for me. And ridiculously, a lot of my favorite delays are digital delays. Just like my favorite reverbs are mostly digital reverbs.
Interesting.
I mean, especially the old underpowered, using weird trick, super artificial reverbs. I love those. So yeah, this kind of echo isn't for everybody, but if this one is your delay, then here you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish they would come out with I don't know if there are, somebody makes an Echoplex one. When I was 17, I got to play with an Echoplex in the studio, and that thing was mental. Then we talk about unreliability. But
so there you go. $19 if you need a Space Echo, if you don't already have one. Does it sound like an original Space Echo? Sure. Does it sound like your Space Echo? No. But does it sound like a Space Echo? Yes.
Sounds like Echoes in space.
And if you're just trying to fill out your Cherry Audio collection, then you have to get it.
If you're
because they are coming for your money.
And give it to them happily. They got 2 weeks to come up with the next thing for us.
Yeah, they're coming for your
really
lunch
are.
money,
Like
dude.
$20. Come on now.
What is this thing like?
You can spend more on that. You can spend more of that Chipotle
Yeah, I still have to buy their 8 voice
before it goes up to $40.
Yeah.
So there's a guy named Steve Gadlin, and he's got a Kickstarter to make a incredible pedal. This is for all you pedal fans out there, called the Fart Pedal. He's made his goal of $30,000. He's exceeded
more than made it.
to $48,232. Go Steve. It's your birthday. You've got some great switches on this fart pedal to toggle between wet and dry. How much gas is in the mix. And yeah, and it's just called the fart pedal. And he just wanted to make a guitar sound like a fart.
Inside it is a modular synthesizer that you cannot program.
Like most modular synthesizers, it sounds like farts.
Its simplicity
It really is.
beautiful. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, this has got to be the height of hipster boutique pedal irony. And I was right.
It really is.
It's no,
It's
the height
awesome.
of it is the pedal that does nothing.
The pedal that turns off your music.
I can't think of what that was called.
Is that what that is? Yeah. Jeff, let's
I
make-
read that this is
we can make
Morris's
this
favorite
fucking
pedal.
easy.
Yeah, it literally just makes everything
It's
into farts.
awful.
That's all it does.
I think what it is actually, if I had to guess, what I think it is it's some kind of, it's using the guitar's signal to break
Yeah.
a gate. And I think that there's a couple of controls, the wet and the dry and the gas mix, that are essentially two parameters on some kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a sample playback device or some sort of a synthesizer or something like that. But it doesn't seem like it's actually editing the guitar sound or doing any wet dry mix of it. It just sounds like it's breaking the gate.
So you're saying it's actually a MIDI controller is what you're saying?
I think it actually is. And anyway, it's horrible and I hate it.
He wants
And
$155 for the fart pedal. If you send him $15, he'll send you a cat drawing. And if you send him $25, he'll send you a custom video with the fart pedal.
I like this guy's
I know,
hustle.
right?
It's good. His
And
hustle
then
is
you,
strong.
yeah, $165 will get one of the first 250 fart pedals.
I need to start pulling off scams like
But if you
this.
pledge
Wow.
$1,000
Yeah.
or more, you'll get the first fart pedal with a certificate of authenticity and a can of beans.
God, I hope he doesn't have an OnlyFans.
I hope he does have an OnlyFans, and I hope it's nothing but like fart videos.
I have
I
an
know.
OnlyFans.
I need to get a membership to your OnlyFans.
the
Jeff, what the fuck did you post?
I dropped a link to the placebo pedal, so if anybody's looking for a pedal that does
Oh
nothing,
yeah, our Act Detect.
it is a pedal that literally does nothing. Now, I will say there's some very funny YouTube videos out there about this, and it turns out that when you buy it, it's kind of a joke, but it winds up being kind of a neat gift for the right kind of person, because they also there's like a coupon deal that comes with it where you can actually buy the guts of it as like a kit to build.
Oh, that's fun.
That turns it into an overdrive pedal for like very little money.
Nice.
So it's a funny gag on its own, and it's a full price pedal that does nothing, but you can pay a couple bucks and you get the guts to turn it into an overdrive pedal. Better than a fart
That's
pedal.
true. And Christoph just dropped his OnlyFans page. So if you're looking to spend $12 a month on something hot,
Actually, my OnlyFans is free.
even better. But give him some money anyway, because his OnlyFans is hot.
And full of carbs.
Yes.
And better than a fart pedal.
Better than a fart pedal. If you're gonna spend $165 on a fart pedal, send it to Christoph for his OnlyFans account.
You should give me some money.
Man, watching you chew on that spit guard made this whole
Did you
show
like that?
totally worthwhile.
It's metal. God. I've been up since 4 this morning, so I'm a little bit slap happy. All right, next news story. Antares, our friends at Antares have introduced the Auto-Tune Slice. This is an interesting little thing. This is a vocal sampler that they've put out. That a synthesizer and a vocal sampler. So it's an auto tune, of course. So you can slice up your samples, made mostly for like vocal samples and stuff like that. Map them to a MIDI controller, and then make them into a playable instrument kind of thing, which sounds like most samplers really. And then it also has the auto tune built into it, so you can tune your whatever the hell it is into whatever you want. And it's a subscription for just $25 a month.
It's got all sorts of other stuff. It looks like it looks more like Spotify than a plugin.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
There's services. There's a number of them out there. Like, is it Splice is one of them? There's a bunch of these sample services, and they're all really cool. But I think even Native Instruments have stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know. I was reading some of the reviews of it. I'm overarching meh with this thing.
Yeah.
Because.
Yes.
Well, when they say slices and new patterns, it makes me think of that old propeller head product that they discontinued and everybody wishes they'd bring back.
Yeah.
Was it? I can't remember the name right now.
Yeah, the thing that you can use to make sliced drums and stuff like that.
So I imagine that this is for taking loops and then cutting them up so that you can beat juggle them and make that automatic, so you don't have to go through and do all the manual cutting. I know there's a few other products that do that now. So I guess this is doing that, plus doing the auto tune stuff that you want, so that you can, so the pitch doesn't matter, but it'll, decimate that pitch the way that auto tune can when you abuse it to make that certain sound that is popular. So, but they lost me at subscription.
Yeah, same.
It does that, and
the other thing,
like it's a little bit almost kind of like a granular sampler. Maybe not exactly, but it's sort of like in theory how it takes. Maybe they're really long grains of the samples or beyond grains, but it seems like it sort of thinks that way.
That's what it sounds like to me too.
Yeah, with the auto-tune integration for sure. But the other thing is, most of the modern ones that do this kind of thing, they lock you into their environment, so you can't like export your work and load it into anything else. And then you always have to have this thing if you want to do that, and I hate that. So what I liked about the old propeller head one is that it exported it turned your recycle. Yeah. It turned your loop into like 16 or 32 individual waves. It gave you a MIDI file, and then you could put it into whatever sampler you wanted. It was a utilitarian product. It wasn't an instrument, and so it was done when you were done with it, and the work that you did with it was permanent, and you kept it forever. But yeah, that doesn't have all the power. This does, but that's the one I want.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, a lot of this stuff is already kind of like built into a lot of things out there already. I mean, you've got your
like Reason has something like that now, right?
Yeah, I mean, Reason's always has those kind of like those that it has that sampler that does this kind of style stuff built in there. And you can just buy Reason; you don't have to subscribe to it.
This is just a solution in need of a problem, and I think it's a way. I think it's just Antares trying to find a way to
branch
have
out
a more marketable product.
Yeah.
It's very cynical.
Yeah.
But I'm positive people will be subscribing to this.
Probably because they want the auto-tune.
There's certain producers, yeah.
And I don't know. And there's so much. I mean, there's so much stuff that like Logic has a auto-tune built into the DAW, and Reason has an auto-tune built into the DAW anymore and stuff like that. It's just like I think that people might be falling in love more with a brand name than anything else. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the auto-tune. Again, it's the beat juggling that this will do.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to implement that, so it can be a creative instrument.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of DAWs do have that kind of functionality, but here it's in a VST instead of in your DAW.
Well, you can also, download for free the MPC software that does the beat juggling and stuff like that too. And has auto-tune in it now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the MPC software? Yeah.
The more you know. I need a sample of that one.
MPC software. MPC what?
Can't remember what else is it. It's called NPC software. Justin, what is that called? The desktop stuff.
you
The
talking
desktop
about-
software.
Yeah, I think you actually have to have a license for it.
Do you?
But there's some free version, I think.
Yeah, because I have a free version of it.
I have it. I installed it just because there's some things I need to do to sync.
NPC Beats.
Yeah, they have different tiers. Like Beats is like they're competing with sort of Roland
Right.
stuff where they.
But then they got like the NPC 2.
Yeah, NPC software.
Yeah.
So basically, it's the same software that runs on all their hardware, as well as their software. So there's NPC Beats, which is I think looks like it might be free.
Looks like Jeff went
But
offline
the
again.
MPC2 is their professional
Yeah,
stuff.
and that's like
it costs-
$150. It looks like for the Premiere. Cause the
Yeah.
$99 for the main stuff, or $150 for the Premiere version, which comes with a bunch of shit. Still,
Yeah, I actually
Jeff, it's battery time.
It turns out that I have done something dumb with my camera, and I don't know what it is. But never fear, because like most sensible people, I have, I don't know, 3 or 4 cameras hooked up to this computer.
just having to grab it off the ceiling.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Burner 3, Andrew. This thing's been burning a hole in my brain.
yeah,
all day.
let's
I love
talk
this
about
thing.
that. Moving on, the Burna 3 turns your computer into the BBC Radiophonic Workshop or something like that. This is I hasten to call it a DAW. It's a virtual studio, they call it. It's €25, so it's about like $30. And
How many is that in inches?
6.25.
Excellent.
And it's a Mac only for now. Sorry, Christoph. But they are coming out the Windows version later on, they say, later this month. So it's on its way. Quit crying. So this thing is fucked up. I was watching
Friggin' awesome,
watching the
dude.
demo for a little while, and I kind of stopped watching it after a while. But it's basically if you took Heimbach and put him in your computer, this is what you get.
It's pretty neat.
The devices on the right, I believe Look Mom No Computer has like 25 of these things that he's mutilated for a
Yeah.
bunch of its
Yes.
projects.
I love that they've got the sound generators. There's one of the tutorials, Andrew. I don't know if you watched the same one. They're talking about the history of this, like pre-synthesizer, and these tone generators had oscillators, but their intention clearly not music,
Yes.
right? And so I think it's pretty far out. And to me, it's like between the radiophonic stuff and all the tape stuff, which is like sort of music concrete kind of cool stuff. I
And
could,
Forbidden Planet.
and if I like literally got sacked from my job, I would buy this and just grow a long beard and play with it all day
So-
long because this looks like a lot of fun.
Like when I was a little kid, my dad, his hobby was electronics, but he did a lot of electronics for ham radio stuff.
Cool.
And so we had these tone generators, like he had like 3 of them, and we had oscilloscopes and all this other shit. When I was a little kid, I would play with these things and play with tones. And this is how I like kind of like learned about electronic music, is by using stuff like this. When I was like 6
so
years
cool.
old, didn't even know there was such a thing. I was just playing around with this and learning and understanding how sound waves, beat up against each other, and watching them on a screen and hearing them hurt my ears and all this other shit, and kind of learning how electricity turns into, audio tones and stuff. So this is really kind of fascinating and kind of nostalgic to me. Because we had test equipment as a little kid. I played with test equipment. I mean, what did you play with? I mean,
And they nailed the look.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I can almost smell the burning dust on the tubes looking at this stuff.
Yeah. Are you ham licensed?
I
Andrew?
am not. I was thinking about getting my ham license, but then I ran out of fucks.
Yeah. So I'm,
Come on, do you want to learn Morse code, Andy?
You don't
Come
have
on.
to anymore.
because
It's easy.
you don't have to anymore. They dropped
Oh,
it
you
in
don't?
2007.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
somebody who's had a lot of time on their hands during a road trip has been listening to ham licensing videos.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Are you thinking about getting your ham license?
I absolutely am.
Fuck, dude. Maybe we should study buddy together.
Yeah.
I'm a big shortwave fan. I used to like search for number stations, you know, because I didn't have much of like.
I have a website that'll allow you to go like where they'll let you log into a radio that's active and you can tune in and you can listen to whatever you want. And they have a list of number wave stations that you can get. And I actually made some samples of some number stations and I use them in my DJ show.
I've used,
Oh, nice.
I've used number stations a lot for various sample material. And also looking for, back in the day, I used to listen to the Russian woodpecker a lot. Aging myself
good
there.
stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing is bonkers.
But anyway, yeah, it's easy to forget that people used to not have all the modular options that we have, and they had to come up with really creative ways to make new sound. Like Walter Carlos, Wendy Carlos now, used to have to do all kinds of weird stuff to try to come up with new sounds. Like, she started just with orchestras and was bending the options. And so, yeah, they did things here with like for the Forbidden soundtrack, the things that they did just with tape was, they really kind of pushed it and made new things and things that people had never heard before. So it was just tape and a theremin and echo. And so this brings you back to some of these like weird tools that you don't find in modular sense, and it gives you a way to exploit them and to think of sound in a new way, but with a nice interface. So I absolutely see the appeal of this if you're into like primitive sound creation. Like this isn't what you want if you're trying to get a TB303 sound, but if you're just trying to make weird stuff,
This is perfect.
and to challenge your mind to think about things in a different way, this looks amazing. But unless you have Windows, and then screw you.
Well, it's coming out later on this month. Chill out.
I know, I'm
Quit
just
being a
teasing.
bitch.
Yeah.
And it's like $30, so you can't go wrong. $30 gives you 12 function generators, 6 filters, 8 modulators, oscilloscope, 4-track tape recorder, 2-track tape recorder, and 4 independent tape loops, and effects with warm analog sound.
At that price, you probably got money left over to buy a Mac, honestly.
Yeah, true. Then you don't have to wait.
They know what they did.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to. I'm probably gonna pick that up, and I'm looking forward to playing with that. And then I'm gonna burn some dust on a tube.
You should get some incense. Cathode ray tube
CRT,
incense.
CRT, dusty tube incense.
I had my incense going earlier.
I know.
No, Chuck.
So,
Nice.
probably at the end of this month, I'll turn on my electric heat and I'll have that same scent throughout my
Yep.
house.
Yep. Same.
That 5 months of dust on my radiator
Girl,
smell.
same. Mm-hmm. Moving on, Korg Modwave. They came out with a 1.1 update for that, and that brings them sample import into the Modwave as well as librarian software. So it sounds like they just lightly recoded the stuff that was already out there for the what do you call the wave state?
Wave state.
Since I would imagine interfaces are very similar, like as far as the inner workings of them.
It seems like it's just about the same thing, except the Modwave has that chaos pad up on the top
Yep,
left.
as opposed to the joystick. And they have red
Yeah.
knobs.
It makes it go
It
faster.
does. I just have the white knobs on the wave state. But yeah, so that's cool. So you have sample import so you can bring in your wavetables however you want to in there. You got your editor and librarian, which is also nice to do. Thanks, guys. So yeah, that's cool. So if you are a wave state user or Modwave user, then get the firmware 1.1. It's a free download. And Korg's website is only slightly cryptic in order to find that shit.
Can't be worse than Royal Insight.
Hold my beer.
Sites. Multiple sites.
So moving on to the most important piece of news, Justin just released a new album. Throw your panties at him. Justin released an album. Name of the project is Still Planet. The name of the album is Atana. Did you say 404 file not found?
I was just
You're
kidding.
a bitch. This is why.
Yeah, no, the link's up.
I know,
now.
I love you. So yeah, if you are into like Berlin School chill out music kind of style stuff, or if you're at all into French comic books, especially Mobius, this shit's good. And I'm not just saying that so you buy it and fill my coffers with your change, so I can dive into it like fucking Scrooge McDuck.
Which would really just break your spine.
It really would. I always imagine
No,
like
you can swim in money.
You're
That's how this
diving
works.
into
yeah,
metal.
I know, and you're chewing on metal and spitting it out, and you're dying. So yeah, kill me with your change, please. So yeah, I'm actually hoping that in a couple of weeks you and I can sit down, Justin, and we can do a show where we discuss your album outside of tangents, if you're down for that.
Thank you.
Because
Yeah,
it's
sure.
always fun to grill you about like everything deep and everything like that. But yeah, it's $8. Can't go wrong with that. It's a good price.
It's a very good
It's a
album. I have listened to it many times, and I have really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank
I
you,
have
Jeff.
listened to it many times as
Absolutely.
well, because I helped mix it. And
Yeah, you have no choice. That's
I actually really enjoyed listening to it. I for a while I was listening to it when I was going for my walks every day too, because I'm like, this is just really nice sounding. It's just gets
you
in a
know,
good spot.
today Jody put it on in the car, so I had to drive to a doctor's appointment in Wicker Park, which is about 30 minutes away from where I live. And I realized because we just recently got the car that I hadn't listened to it in the car, which is the thing that I used to do first. Yeah. And it was fun. It was good. You know, I'm real weird about listening to my own music. I find it difficult. But so, you know, but she's like, no, we got to listen to it in the car. And it was fun.
It's
it was
awesome.
Nice. It's good driving.
Yes.
Which is funny because that's what I used to use Tangerine Dream for. So early on in my life, I would drive around with my friends at night, you know, and listen to creepy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so comes around, goes
There
around.
you go. But yeah, so now Christoph, you have something you can listen to on the drive home tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it will. I'm sure it'll be much more pleasing to my ears than listening to people talk about ham radio and the general licensing exam.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was my main competition when I was going into this. That was what I was thinking.
Music inspired by
But unfortunately, I didn't know about it because I've been detached from the internet for weeks,
It's true.
Wow.
Well,
which is terrible. Like I found out while I was away that Elvira came out.
yeah, kind of
Well,
Yeah.
in this weird denying kind of way. Anyway,
And Richard Kirk died.
yes, Richard Kirk died.
yeah.
And that is horrible.
We shut it out like last
Yep.
time because that was hard for me. So, a huge fan.
And such a huge influence.
Mhm. That's crazy. So yeah, everyone should go buy it right now. Stillplanet.bandcamp.com. Available from Ick Studios. Well done, Justin. And like I said, we'll talk
Oh,
more
thank
about
you, sir.
that in a few weeks after Synthfest. Let's plan.
Does it have synthesizers on it?
It has a synthesizers the like of which even God has never seen.
That sounds pretty good.
You know, whenever he says that, all I can do is think of Big Ed.
Right?
You know? That's the one scene where the Big
course,
Ed.
Big Ed pops out.
I just can't.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, this guy's like got this sort of drawl. I think he's from like Tennessee or somewhere, you know, and he can hide it, you know, a little. But there, I was like, dude, you sound like Big Ed. I
Yeah, I know,
can't.
right?
Yep.
I loved it.
Nadine. All right. And finally, and in lesser news than the release of the amazing new album by Still Planet, is a video game was recently released that will make you feel like you haven't wasted your life, unlike most video games. And this is called The Signal State, and it requires you to save the world with your modular synth programming skills. I love this idea.
in a video game.
This is like,
I love this shit.
there's been a couple of like these like video games that are supposed to be like electronic music based, and they've been terrible. And this one looks like fun, and I'm gonna buy it, and I'm going to have fun with it. And fuck you all if you don't like it. This is what I'm gonna be doing instead of anything else for the next few weeks.
Well, what's that genre? There's a genre of games like VICCP is one where it's like, you know, it's you and some machine interface, and the world's going to end if you don't figure out what the fuck to do with it. I don't know if there's a name for that genre, but this sounds like a delightful extension.
It kind of does. It's available for both Mac and PC, so Christoph can play it as well as the rest of us. It's $16, so it's still cheaper than a subscription to Antares Autotune.
Probably sounds better.
Probably, yeah. I mean, and it's also cheaper than the fart pedal. And with it, as we all know, with modular, you can make so many fart noises with the modular. It's not even funny.
You've got more than 2 knobs for fart control.
It's true.
On almost any modular
Yes.
synth.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I don't know. This sounds like it'd be fun. I hope they have a multiplayer version of it. So, like, we can all just, like, spend an entire show playing this and irritating everybody.
Are competing.
One of you could be the
This thing
villain
got
who,
so-
like, pulls out the cords.
Yeah. So I haven't played this yet, but when I first saw the article on this, it looked like they would show you a waveform, and then you had to make a patch that would make that waveform.
Yes.
Oh.
So it really kind of pushes your modular intelligence. You're like, okay, how do I accomplish
It reminds
this?
me of a game playing version of Centurial, which, if you've never seen
Yep.
Centurial before, and folks that are synth nerds, new and old, can get something out of Centurial, which is it's a synthesizer tutorial program where they show you how sounds are made, and they really show you how to program sounds in this. And like they give you quizzes where here's a sound, make it kind of thing, and you have to try to make it and figure out, is this a square wave, is it a sine wave, and how are they doing this kind of thing. And then they judge you based upon how close you get. And it's a really well done program for learning synthesis, and that's available on every platform: Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS. Like they made it across the board, and even Android as well. And it comes with a nice little virtual analog VST.
I like that it's on Steam too. That makes my life a lot
Yes,
easier.
yeah. So you can manage it much better as far as that's concerned. But yeah, this is basically like a game version of Centurial, I think. But yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, if you already can't stop thinking about modular synths enough, well, bam, now you've got a video game, and you can say, oh no, I'm not doing that. It's a game.
Yeah.
But
Wait,
you're still doing it.
So you mean if you've lost all of your money and your family's abandoned you and you have no other
I can either buy
Well,
some
you gotta
patch
find
cables or I
some
can
way
buy
to
this
spend your
game.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doomed to my eternal loneliness.
Yeah. So if you like live alone and all you have is synths and you spend a lot of time by yourself and you're part of a synth talk show, maybe this is the game for you.
So I know what you're doing tomorrow when you get home. You're getting ready for your radio for your DJ gig.
Actually, I don't think I'm going to make it home in time for my DJ gig
wow.
tomorrow. So I think Spike Club will have to wait till the following week. The trip, for me to do Spike Club, I have to start setting up at 3, latest 4, and I'm not going to make it from Buffalo to where I live in time.
All right. So
It's going to have to be the following
no
week.
spite tomorrow. There's always spite in
Nope.
in your heart, though.
Of
always.
course. I've been spreading spite from coast
He
to
has
coast.
been twice. He's painted the coast.
God, Spite Ghost, coast
I
to
know,
coast.
right? Dude, I told you the other day I was going through some boxes that I found, and I totally dug out my Space Ghost action figures. Like, I have the entire setup with Space Ghost in his desk, and I have Moltar and with his like control panel, and Zorak on the keys, and Brack just standing there with his arms crossed, and yeah, and the
Just doing brag
Can I just
things.
say, Andrew, that some of my fondest memories in life were us hanging out in the 90s
watching Space Ghost coast to coast. Oh, I also
And, well,
I also found these. Let me move the camera because I put them up on the wall over here. There they are. My Henchmen 21 and 24 from the Venture Brothers action figures. Thank you very much. And if you look up, there's my new curtains, modular synthesizer curtains that I got. Yeah, very nice.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those look great.
Yes. So you too can be a nerd if you try hard enough.
Yeah.
You pray to Jesus every night. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we got here, folks. Look at that. We got in. We did it. We didn't go overtime this time.
Done
We
and
can go to
done.
bed at a decent
Had it with
hour.
tangents, the correct amount, and now it's time for a little Q&A. So you can ask us about modular sense, regular sense, FM sense, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, or the Venture Brothers.
Because that's pretty much all we know.
Yeah. Not how to talk to girls, but this one.
No one has any questions. They don't want to talk to us. That's cool. They're just like, can you just like go to Graceful Bard and just get this over with, please?
Let's just start like doing Ron Swanson answers to questions that people aren't asking us.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, all right, well, you see, any dog less than 50 pounds is a cat, and cats are worthless. Next.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I'm bummed.
Again, well, before we go to Graceful Bard, I'll just say that she thoroughly impresses me with her use of the RC505 looper.
Right?
I never realized how amazing that unit could be until I saw somebody with talent.
Yeah,
using
right.
it. All right, come on up, puppy. Let's get some ratings
Get the
going.
puppy up here.
There's a dog.
We did get a question.
Oh, we did get a question. What was your favorite
False.
Brack song? Mine is the Bean song. When I eat beans, I sit in my own little cloud.
I remember, didn't Brack released an album?
did.
Wasn't
Oh,
there?
he's got a whole
Yeah.
album, yeah.
Yeah.
Your ratings going up now that I got a dog?
Checking.
Huh?
Yeah, Glacial 23 joined us, but since you got the dog in. Thanks for joining us, Glacial 23.
right.
We're about to leave. Your
Very
timing is
popular
imperfect,
dog.
is perfect as always, or imperfect as always.
Well, that's a matter of, I mean, that's totally a matter of perspective. I mean, he could have joined just in time to be whisked gently away to the Graceful
That's true.
Bard.
That's true.
Artflack NYC, do you approve of the dog?
It's a cute puppy.
Aw.
All right.
Oh, hey, buddy.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. We have to put the dog to sleep now. But it didn't work.
Oh, well. Good job, y'all. Now we have to put the dog to sleep. We're going to go ahead and raid over to Graceful Bard while we start the euthanasian process. We'll see you all in a few weeks for another exciting episode of Tangents. I hope to see folks up here on Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern at my Synthfest extravaganza, where there'll be so much urine and feces processed on my thigh pads. You will not believe it. So,
I mean, that's every Saturday, though, not
yeah,
just
I mean,
this
that's
weekend.
just, yeah,
I mean-
it's just another,
This weekend, he's just doing it with
Yeah.
music.
with the fart pedal.
Just to the beat.
So, Christoph, Jeff, Justin, always wonderful hanging out with you guys on Wednesday night. I could not think of a better way to hang out on a Wednesday night.
Same.
Yeah, no, I can't.
No comment.
So, until a few weeks, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for going off the rails with us. We'll see you soon. Take care. Let's head over to the Graceful Bard for exciting adventure.
Happy Wednesday.
Yay, week's almost over. Fuck the week.